Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, based on wherever you are in the world. I am Dan Riley, co-founder of RADICL, and I am thrilled to be bringing you the maiden voyage of the Great Debate. Clap, everybody. This is super exciting. We have a lot to cover today, so we're going to jump right in. Our topic today, we have a stellar cast of debaters, and we're going to be debating whether scale or value is more important for people analytics. And the most exciting part about this is I'm not choosing the winner. Kinsey Lee, who's my co-conspirator in crime, is not choosing the winner. All of you in the audience get to vote and choose the winner. So as we get started quickly, I want to learn a little bit about all of you who are joining. If you could put in the chat, where are you from? Let's just get a quick city, state, country, whatever you want to add. I'd love to see where people are from. And we can see how global of an audience we have. I'll start. I'm Minneapolis, Minnesota. All right, who's the first? Non-shy.
Oh, we are getting a few messages saying chat is disabled.
That would be funny. Okay.
But we are getting some answers from Sunny Lee, that's who's from London, UK, and I can see a few other names. Welcome Bradley, welcome Fraser, welcome Lisa as well. So Izzy, if you wouldn't mind just enabling the chat for us, please.
Perfect. Well, I will, as keep, once we get chat enabled, do enter some of that information. We want to get to know all about you as well. And with that, once chat's enabled, we want you to be a part of this. You're the audience. So as speakers are speaking, we ask you not to heckle, but definitely give your opinion and your thoughts and your emojis and your thumbs up and your sounds great, or that was awesome, or I'm not sure about that. We do want you to, it looks like chat is opening up. Fantastic. So thank you, Izzy, for doing that. Okay, so I want to quickly introduce our debaters, and then after that, we're going to do a quick poll. So on team value, we have Lydia Wu, we have Lei Pan, and we have Pietro Mazzoleni. On team scale, we have Henrik Håkansson, we have Ken Matos, and we have Wong. So these 6 debaters have been rehearsing, practicing, ready to win, ready to prove their point, and they are ready to win. Like, I am confident of this. This is war. We're ready to rumble here. So I want to, Izzy, if we could start a vote right now, and this is an initial baseline about all of you listening. What do you think? Is scale more important or is value more important? So we have 3 minutes. This will be up on the screen. And I'm going to chat a little bit more about the origin of the Great Debate and some of the those involved, and give you a little structure around how it's going to work. Let me first start with the structure, and then I'll talk about the origin. So we're going to open up this debate with opening statements from each team. So team scale goes first. Henrik, and then Ken, and then Wilson will each have 2 minutes each. So they present their opening arguments. Then we move to team value. Lydia, Lee, and Pietro go. So we have a total of about 15 minutes of opening statements. There will be a timer, so we're going to be very precise. 2 minutes, it's done, and there is a fun little noise that happens when the 2 minutes are up, which we'll show you in a little bit. Then we're going to do a sense check, a quick sense to see how are we trending. Is anybody taking the lead? Who's taking the lead? That data is for our eyes only behind the scenes. It will be shared at the end. Then we jump right into rebuttals, and this is where we put our gloves on a little bit. Rebuttals are going to work a little differently. Still 2 minutes for each person, but we're going to go back and forth. So we will start, again, we will start with team scale. Henrik will go, but then the value to Lydia, and then Ken from scale, and Lee will go, and then Wilson, and then Pietro. So we're gonna go back and forth, giving 2 minutes each, rebuttals, and then finally, conclusion, and there'll be one member from each team. And I believe it is going to be, it will be Wilson, and it will be Pietro giving the conclusion, 2 minutes after hearing all the arguments, opening statements, rebuttals, the final conclusion. Then we vote, we announce a winner, we get into Q&A. So 30 more seconds. This debate started Kinsey Lee and myself. Kinsey's on, wave. We met at People Analytics World, and we're talking to Barry, and this idea came to life. It's really all about, we need to debate more in a healthy, safe environment. We need to bring up ideas and have differences of opinion, and that's okay. That's how the best change happens, right? To show up and do it in a way where we actually take a position and we stick to it. And that's what the goal of this is all about. It's in good, it's debate with love, but it's also debate to really give our audience perspective, right? Perspective around change, perspective around moving forward. So with that, and without further ado, let's see, how are we doing on, we have, all right, perfect timing. Poll 1 just ended. Here we go. This is exciting. What does the audience think? This will let you all know, all your debaters. Oh, oh, this is a big one. I could take my glasses off for this. All right. Sorry, Team Scale. You have some work to do. We have 91% of the audience are saying value is more important for people analytics, and 9% are saying scale is more important for people analytics. So that's a pretty big shift. So scale, put your debate hat on. And I think with timing, we are perfectly on time. 3:08. I think at this point, Team Scale must begin, and you have your work to do. And Henrik, I'm going to turn it to you. You kick us off. The floor and the mic is yours.
Great. Thanks, Dan. So, scale. It's called people analytics, not executive analytics, not small group of important people analytics, not whoever shouts the loudest analytics. People analytics is not supposed to only cover a small group of people. We want to cover all the people when we do analysis of the company, so why wouldn't we also want to share these insights with the people that we analyze? Focusing on scale allows us to organize as an organization to create an equal playing field. You can equip your leaders, your managers, your employees with the same way of looking at information, of course, securely limited to their scope, which in turn will create a better understanding of decisions made across the organization. We all know that data literacy is a challenge and requires a lot of change management. We've all been there trying to convince our colleagues to use our dashboards instead of our gut feeling. However, if we only focus on small groups and targeted initiatives, we will never get to a point where it will become a benefit to lean into data for the average employee or manager. If all decisions are based on solutions created for the senior leadership or specific functions, improving data literacy won't be an incentive for people. By creating scalable solutions, it will be in the interest of everyone to learn and utilize data in their daily lives, just like generative AI has shown us recently. I often talk about being data informed rather than data driven. And if data becomes part of the everyday life in an organization, it won't be surprising to people when they present data to support their decisions, as everyone can do the same thing. Everyone can critically think about the data, look at trends, and use it to anchor decisions across the organization without having to question the source, definitions, or how someone came to a specific conclusion. I think scaling people analytics will help everyone by creating a more data-informed organization rather than just a select few who might make decisions without the right context. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrik. So I would like to add that focusing on scale also empowers managers to be the employees that executive teams crave. Who hasn't heard the phrase, "Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions"? For managers to bring solutions, they need data access to understand the problem, evaluate potential solutions, and determine which solutions are cost-effective and scalable and worth bringing forward to a leader looking for answers. By restricting people analytics information to senior leadership, we force them to abandon their strategic responsibilities to solve tactical problems for underinformed but otherwise capable managers. Providing managers with clear goals to aim for and well-scaled data access enables everyone across the business to do their jobs rather than fill in gaps for the levels below. In my work at CultureAmp, we've seen change management and other efforts go wrong for customers who don't take our advice to democratize data. This is because the focus was solely on an aggregate understanding of the organization, pooling many different interests into generalized statements that didn't resonate with anyone except shareholders. Providing broader access to people data enables managers to translate big picture messaging into local impacts with data-based explanations. Employees who hear their local leaders speaking fluently about a problem are much more willing to support the solution. Failing to scale data access leaves everyone pointing their fingers at inaccessible leadership and blaming them for every problem, which only undermines organizational success. At the end of the day, people don't do what we tell them to do just because we tell them to do it. That's one of the key reasons why people analytics exists in the first place. So failing to scale your people analytics functions is really a decision to reduce the value of all your employees. By disempowering and frustrating managers and bogging down executives with decisions that should be handled several steps below their level. Simply put, you can't achieve value without scale.
Wilson.
Okay, it's my time. Okay, great. I'll start. So let's be honest, whether you go for value first or scale first depends on the kind of organization you work for. When you focus on scale, you want to capitalize on your employees' knowledge and experience. When you focus on value, you want to centralize command and control so that everything is textbook, coordinated and neat. At least you hope so. The reality is your staff actually are very knowledgeable. They know what needs doing. They don't need some executive using spreadsheets and analytics to second guess what they already know. They just need the data. Now take the classic case of the Boeing Dreamliner. The executives set the budget at $7 billion, less than 40% of what the 777 cost 13 years earlier. They outsourced the R&D, design, and the build to inexperienced partners. The engineers who had to deliver said, this wasn't a good idea. But the engineers were told, we're in control, don't fuck up. The Dreamliner actually has cost Boeing $30 billion to date. They've sold over 1,000 planes, but they've only recouped about half that cost. Now, who was the wiser group? So much for value. The engineers could have developed a much better plan, but the executives chose control and destroyed value. The same with the US Post Office and their submasters, right? Central control of information and central control of workers. So we ended up as taxpayers paying for that mistake. And it is now the largest, biggest injustice in UK legal history. So what kind of organization would you rather work for? One where you're empowered or one where you're controlled?
Well done. Okay, that was Team Scale. We're off to Team Value, and Lydia is going to kick us off. Lydia, the mic is yours.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dan. So speaking to all the people analytics and HR practitioners out there, the last 18 months has been incredibly hard on us. There are resource constraints, there are budget cuts, and I'm sure if we all had a penny for every time we've been told to do more with less and see how we can find efficiencies and be more effective, we can afford some pretty nice things ourselves. Sometimes this world feels like it's the same world that we are all trained in, but at the same time, it feels like we're operating in a very different world. In this different world, HR leaders are required to be technology leaders. We're required to talk about technology to understand technology and how it impacts HR. HR leaders are also expected to be business P&L leaders. This is a world where the business is expecting HR to focus on value, to focus on what it's contributing to the bottom line of the entire organization. And as the strategic arm of any HR organization, people analytics, we too should also focus on value. If you think about it from a sales organization example, typically when you look at sales leaders and how they measure the effectiveness of their organizations, do first-time meetings matter? Yes, absolutely. Do impressions and exposures matter? Yes, absolutely. But fundamentally, every single sales organization is measured on the amount of revenue they bring in, the amount of net new customers they're to bring in. And if we have impressions and we have meeting counts without the actual results, the business doesn't take very well to sales. So in the world of HR, operating under the broader corporate context, why should HR be any different? This is the era of value. This new world requires us to do more with less. But however, let's focus on value so we can turn the table, no longer have to do more with less, but figure out how we can do less and how we can do better for the organization.
So people analytics is not HR reporting. We do HR reporting, we create dashboards, reports, we give that to our thousands line managers in the organization. That's where we do scale, where we do data literacy, we do data democracy, but that's not people analytics. People analytics is about translating strategic business questions into data questions. It's about using analytics to get insights and follow up with actions. We must focus on important questions here. Your people analytics team is a special group of people who understand the business, understand the organization, and also understand data and analytics. They are special people. We don't have a lot of them. So we must make sure that they focus on the right questions. That means they focus on the questions that really deliver value. Give a simple example. In the time of Gen AI discussions, what do you do with your people analytics team? You can follow the trend by developing a chatbot, whatever that is trendy there. But your people analytics team, but any data science team can do this much better than your people analytics team. We also have the market standards providers who can do this probably better than your people analytics team. Your people analytics team should really focus on how do we manage people in the era of AI, Gen AI. And this is where we use their best value. And they do this not by developing an app, developing a scaled up chatbot. They do this by talking to the right stakeholders, focus on the value, focusing on the most important questions.
Okay, so in people analytics, there is a common misconception that the more, the better. The more often our solution touches the employee, the higher our value. This is not necessarily true. Many of us, I'm certain, are facing similar problem with an explosion number of report or report requests that aren't always linked to tangible value. Let's not make the same mistake with AI. Now, similarly, people analytics is not baseball. Just because you build it doesn't mean that people will use it. To scale a solution, you need significant investment to design engagement experience, involve user group, partner with the IT team to deploy it in the workflow. And then at launch, you need to have communication, enablement, support, while considering privacy regulation, which are different country to country. Those elements are often overlooked when people think at scaling first. Just building a cool solution is not sufficient to make it scale. It will not scale. Finally, touching back to what some of my colleagues are saying, quantifying the business value of an analytics that are used by your CHRO to determine the next year's skill location strategy or take action on when high-performing employees are leaving a company. It's clear. Now, if you focus a scale as your main driver to make decision, can you confidently make a similar assessment. Do you clearly know what is the value of the solution used by all these individuals? Can the target user truly make action on the insights, or they are simply looking at seeing the data and they like to see but they cannot take action? So focus on value.
Wow, those well done, and keeping it within 2 minutes. We didn't have to mute mics. Amazing job, everybody. I mean, I couldn't vote right now. The good news is I don't have to. All of you in the audience get to vote. So what we're gonna do, and thank you, debaters, amazing, succinct, brilliant. What we're gonna do is open it up right now. Before we get into the "Are you ready to rumble" moment, we're going to do a little sense check. We want to see, is scale starting to pick things up, as they were, you know, in the single digits in the beginning. So Izzy, perfect. We're going to have this up for about a minute. And I want to quickly just call out a couple of things, two things. I want to thank one of our partners, People Analytics World, and just give a quick, I'm sure you all know everything about People Analytics World and Barry's amazing 10-year run, but they are a go-to conference and they are supporting this event. And Barry's been awesome in helping set this up, and they're a go-to conference for digital HR leaders and people analytic platforms, ultimately focusing on how we drive business value from people data. And the flagship event, I think for 10 years now, I believe we just had the 10-year reunion, was in London and has been in London every April since. And it's been long time collaborated and chaired by the one and only David Green, who I'm sure all of you know well, and spreading into Amsterdam, into Zurich. And I am so excited, in October 2nd and 3rd, it's coming to my hometown, New York City, the Big Apple. So perfect, the poll is done. So what this means now we get into the rebuttal side of things. And again, to remind everyone, for some of you who came on late, this is going to be a back and forth, 2 minutes. So we're going to start with scale, then value, scale, value, scale, value. So based on some of the opening statements, our debaters are going to start to have that rebuttal, have that back and forth conversation. And I believe our first speaker for rebuttal is going to be Henrik from Team Scale. So the mic is yours, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you to all the other panelists for great arguments. But Lydia was talking a lot about resource constraints. Obviously, we knew this. We don't have, or most of us at least, don't have teams of 100+ members, and we don't have the luxury to focus on everything. But what this really means is that we need to focus on scale even more, because we don't have the capacity to handhold every single person in the business. We need to focus on everyone being able to leverage data and analytics in their daily lives. And scale is about creating solutions that can be consumed by everyone. It doesn't mean we target 20,000 people with the first iteration, but we shouldn't also limit ourselves to the only a small group of people being able to consume that. And also, of course, HR leaders need to be more tech savvy. But why doesn't every manager need to be more tech savvy in that case? Everyone should be mindful of P&L. I mean, how do we spend in a business? I mean, and to give people the power to be able to take those decisions in the right way and understand, just like you have a travel policy in your company, why wouldn't you have an understanding of basic business acumen or technology? So why should we limit that kind of power to the leadership only? Because at some point, even employees and regular members of the organization might become managers. And should their lives completely change then when they don't have, or all of a sudden they have access to all this new information? But Lydia also spoke about sales. And of course, bottom line, yeah, that's what we, or most of our C-levels always care about. But if the salesperson themselves don't know what they're targeting or what their ambition is, then it's also really difficult for them to know if they're doing a good job, or if you're limiting this only to the manager or the leader of the sales function. So again, having the scale available to people will help us reduce the need to handhold every single one of our employees and not focus only on a few people.
Lydia, you were called out a couple times.
Yes, I was. All right, here we go.
Oh.
So HR's lack of resources and people analytics lack of resources does not constitute as a organization's employee and manager's problem. For the last 10 years, HR as a function has done the most wonderful job of handing overflow over to our managers. Performance management, we don't have capacity, managers, you take it. Change management, we don't have capacity, managers, you take it. Coaching, I'm sorry, we don't have enough HR business partners, managers, you take it. To this point where if you scroll through LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, any platforms talking about the modern workplace, it is essentially the most well-known secret at this point that being a people manager is possibly one of the worst places you can be in an organization because you're squeezed from the top and you're squeezed from the bottom. So why will we make them do more in this scenario? And let's maybe ignore that sentiment for a moment. Let's go ahead with the logic of, sure, let's pass it on to our managers and our employees for scale. What you would need them to be then is data informed. To be data informed, they need to be data literate. To be data literate, you need to train them. To train them, you need resources. HR is already short on resources. How are we going to get more? We have to focus on value first, get the business to be convinced that we are worthy of the resources, so we can then therefore focus on scale as the aftermath. To one of the previous points made earlier as well, modern organizations are unfortunately structured based on command and control. If we go back to the anthology of how organizations started, it was pretty much off of a military structure. So do we need to change? Yes, we absolutely do. We need to do better from an org structure perspective. Yes, absolutely. But until then, it's really our job as people analytics and the strategic arm of HR to do with what we have and to make the most of what we have in the structure that we are given currently. And that is really to focus on the value side of the house.
And that is the end of round one with our rebuttals. So, all right, everyone take a breath, breathe. And now we're moving on to round two. And in round two, we will start with Ken from Team Scale. Ken, your corner.
So I'm hearing a lot about the importance of thinking about the resources we spend on people. Lei was mentioning that researchers and analysts are special and have abilities that others don't in order to find answers. Lydia was pointing out that the efforts that it takes to get people to actually know what to do is a big investment. And I think the reality is we have to make that investment. The more we close ranks to try to say, oh, smaller people, special people are going to do the thing, the more ground we actually lose. Because the reality at the end of the day is there's an infinite amount of things that technology enables us to do and have access to. And if we don't actually train people to use that information, then all we're doing is giving them tasks with no actual support. And let's face it, we're not going back to the days of everybody in their corner office doing their one little task, and we're going to expand our work staff in order to have everyone doing something special. We need to enable people to do the variety of tasks that keep coming up in a really agile and dynamic world. And while that might sound crazy, we've been doing that. I mean, right now, we're all sitting here talking on Zoom. A few years ago, people didn't even know to remind each other to go off mute because they didn't know what mute was because they all worked in offices and didn't touch fancy machines. Now, that's the basic norm in a great many places. And so I think we need to not think of everybody as these poor little sheep that we need to herd, but much more as capable employees who want to do the work that we're giving them, but they also want to make sure that they're given the resources, the knowledge, the expertise in order to actually succeed at those tasks. And so I would really say that if we want to make progress, we need to really invest in the scale that brings everybody on board to achieving value, rather than saying value belongs only to the top.
Let's not mix the concept here. So does HR need scale? Does running HR people management process need scale? Yes, we need to run our recruitment process. We need to pay people with scale. But does it mean that people analytics should do that? No. Everybody in this world needs food and water. Does everybody in this world should everybody in this world provide people and only work on food and water? No, people need to work on what their unique value is, right? So, so that's why we have Workday, we have SAP, and then to provide those scaled up products to run our HR processes. And then we should use them. We should use those market standard providers in order to serve our employees, our line managers at scale. Then our people analytics team can focus on what only the things only they can do. So, which means value, right? So really look at the big questions that matter to the organization, to the people, and to the direction this organization is going. So going back to my previous example, instead of creating all the chatbots, dashboards, and whatever you name it, nobody makes use of them. That's most important. And then they can focus on the question, the couple of questions that really drives people management differently in the new era. So I think that's where we use the best skills, we leverage the best skills our people analytics team have. And then again, so let me repeat my point. People analytics is not HR reporting. People analytics is a group of people that we need to focus on the value.
Well said. Okay, everybody, let's take 20 seconds. We're actually about a minute ahead of schedule, so we're moving into round 3. And I could let everyone just kind of breathe for a moment. First, I just want to thank everybody for the amazing comments. It's awesome. Thank you for the energy. Keep it going. More. And with that, everyone's back in their corners. And now for the final round of the rebuttal, we're going to open it up with Wilson from Team Scale. Wilson, the mic and the round and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard a lot about people analytics being the purview of a select group of experts. The question is, why are we doing people analytics in the first place? What we want is to have the data to free our people so that their talent, their capital, their knowledge, their skills is unveiled and used for value creation, right? And we don't make the assumption that more is better. We don't just want to proliferate reports, but there was 2 of the speakers actually said they may not use it. And my question is why? Why don't your people use it? It's because you haven't co-built this system with them. You haven't asked them what information and analysis matters to them. How many times have you done the analysis and then they ask a question, you go, oh, well, we never thought of that, so we didn't do the analysis. So we can't give you an answer because the system says no. So if you don't build the literacy, if you don't build the capability for people to understand why you're building a data analytics base, what's the point? Where are you going with a select group of people who decide what should be asked, what should be answered, who should see the data? If you look at the basic principles of data governance, it says common vocabulary, engage the workforce, listen to your stakeholders, co-create, execute together. Now, if you keep data locked up in the executive suite, how good are you at responsible data governance, really?
Well done. All right, so to close off round 3, Pietro, you are up, closing off our rebuttal.
Thank you. Let me go different. I support scaling. In fact, we all need to experiment with analytics at all levels of the organization. We as a people analytics leader must lead the way with Gen AI HR use case, possibly built in partnership with other parts of the organization who might be doing some work in this space. Let's also not confuse data democratization with scale as the focus of a people analytics effort. Wilson, I agree with you. We need to give more data and insight to the hands of the people who truly can take action of it. But that doesn't necessarily be all employee and all manager. Now, no matter if you go with, oh, I only focus the CHRO, or I'm spending 1 year talking to the employee. People analytics team must ultimately make a business value proposition to their CEO and to their CHRO to prioritize one work versus the other one. Any use case, whatever is sold to one person or to the 100,000s of people that are in your organization, must be prioritized based on the value they achieve and based on our ability to gain to that value. So let's not be fooled here. Value, at least from my point of view and my team, is the true lever of a people analytics team success.
Fantastic. Well, that concludes the rebuttal round. And, Kinsey, that bell, I'm going to have to get a recording of that and use that as my alarm clock. I've just decided, once did I want to wake up? Ding, ding. We'll talk to Apple, see if we can get it. There it is. Time to wake up. I'm going to have like debate. Oh, what? Anyway, awesome rebuttals. And now we are going to move into the final portion of this before we're getting close to choosing a winner, or you are all getting close to choosing a winner, I should say, but we're going to go into the conclusion. And this is an opportunity. In this case, there's going to be one member from each team giving their final statement, their final argument for why scale or why value is more of a focus area or should be considered more important than the other. And we will start, in this case, we are going to start with team value. And on team value, the opening speaker will be Pietro. You just went, so sorry, you get to go again. But you have 2 minutes. Final conclusions, make your point. Why is value better to focus on for people analytics?
I think we already have a good understanding of that we must use scale and data democratization to free up time and effort of any people analytics team to pick up new initiative, to pick up bigger initiative. No matter what, the initiative must be measured on the value that they bring back to the organization. Don't start with the idea, especially if the organization is still in the earlier phases of people analytics. Don't be lured in on a Gen AI use case, which might be very appealing, might be very sexy, so to speak, that 6 months from now, 1 year from now, you are not able to articulate why it was picked. You are not able to go back to your CHRO, to your chief financial officer, to your CEO, and say, we did this, we achieved that. And achieve does not mean how many people use it. There are spam email, it's scaled, but it's not successful, didn't bring value. That's what we need to make sure we understand. We understand what is in our nature. Our nature is not creating report, is not creating a chatbot, is not advising the CEO on what the talent should be. Those are activity that we can do. That our mission is drive value to the organization independently of how this value is achieved. So I'm for team value, appreciate the invitation, and I truly appreciate the scaling because we need to get there to keep growing as an organization. Thank you.
Perfect. Well done. Okay. And Wilson, you will be closing this up for final conclusion for team scale. And I will just remind you and everybody that you started off with a little bit of a deficit from the original voting. So this final conclusion is important. Nail it. Why should we think about scale as being more important than value specific to people analytics?
Okay, let's go. When you focus on value, what you're doing is restricting information to your people and allowing, and then the people who hold that information become bottlenecks. They're not closer to the problem. You're actually diminishing value creation, because in order to create value, you have to provide context. You have to allow the analysts to touch the ground. It has to work in reality. And without the experience and knowledge of the people on the front line, you're just creating metrics. We don't want to focus on value because it infantilizes your capable managers who are just following orders from above. You lose the opportunity for them to see the big picture and to pull in the right direction. So by focusing on scale, you create value. It is so much more, scale is so much more than just cost. And the way that you've looked at value as your investment is so reductive. Scale goes to having confidence and trust in your people, encouraging them to be curious, to ask questions and to learn, to build a culture where everybody has the skills, tools, and information to act in the best interest of the organization. It gives them the confidence to say, hey, I don't know something, can you help me? So John Hubbard talked about the hierarchy instead of the hierarchy, where there's a dynamic flow of power and authority based on knowledge, trust, credibility, and a focus on results enabled by the technology. So really, I want to ask you again, what kind of organization do you want to be part of? One that trusts you, develops you, encourages initiative and innovation, or one that expects you to carry out orders like a good soldier, unquestioning, because we know best?
Wow. You all rehearsed. I'm impressed. This was great. All right. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And the audience, everyone, there's so many people online watching. Give some love in chat. I mean, it's been an awesome discussion. So I think I heard from someone emojis were disabled. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but use words. We can use words instead of emojis. So just start to fill up chat. And give everyone big thank yous and thank you. So now comes the time to make a decision on who won this debate, and then we're going to get into a little Q&A during the voting process and some discussion. So I would like to put up the polling, and the final poll for all of you to decide: scale or value. The voting will be up for 3 minutes, starting right now. And I just want to chat a little bit with all of the debaters. So this was hard. Anyone who knows me, like, I wanted to get into this conversation. So, but you all have been so brilliant, and I love running events like this, and I know Kinsey does, and we get to learn so much and listen to just great ideas, great perspective. But I want to, now it's an opportunity to. This discussion isn't a binary conversation, right? We're not saying one lives solo or independent without the other, but we are trying to argue for why should we focus on scale versus why should we focus on value. So what I want to do is kind of pick on a few debaters and ask, what did you learn from the other side, from a debate conversation perspective, that that could make you say, yeah, you're right, but, and or anything you want to say to the other debaters. And Lydia, I'm going to pick on you first from Team Value. and it's hardly picking on you. I think this is an important part. This is where we talk about what did we learn, what perspectives did we absorb, and maybe what decision did we have or thought did we have that might be swayed or be changing a little bit based on what you heard. So Lydia from Team Value, the mic's yours for a moment.
Awesome. So I think one thing that came across loud and clear to me is that data democratization is still a challenge. Like people analytics since its inception has had this chasm that we've always had to cross. And that chasm, or the last mile problem, whatever you want to call it, is really how do you get data into the hands of those who can execute on it? And how do you get feedback from them? Because I think I saw a question from one of our audiences to say, how do you get organization performances to connect to your people data? You can't, not in a people analytics silo. And I think that's why the Scale team definitely brought us some good points from a democratization perspective, because without democratizing, you're not sending out the olive branch. You're not reaching out to say, hey, I've got something for you. Can you come cross the chasm and start partnering with me? So I think fundamentally at the end of the day, to really get us to the value side, democratization is that invitation for the partnership.
Love that, Lydia. It was so well said, perfectly said. Ken, from Team Scale, what about you? What perspectives did you hear, that you want to share that are complementary to Team Value, even though you were making a very, a fantastic argument for Scale?
I think at the end of the day, all of us agree that we have to accomplish something for the business. And like, whether we call it value or not, I think that can confuse things a little bit. But like that question of, do we start with the top? Do we start with the middle or the bottom? I think one of the things I really appreciated Lydia saying was like, we're giving everything to everybody throughout the organization and they're tired, like picking it up so fast, so hard. It's really draining for a lot of employees. And so finding a way to not just scale, but phase that scaling in a way that allows people to actually play to their strengths rather than cover gaps elsewhere in the organization, I think is one of the key things that's gonna make scale work. And that's gonna take leaders to make decisions about how you fold that out, what's gonna be most important to do first, and really constraining a little bit of that process so it just doesn't blow everyone's minds out in the first 10 seconds.
So well said. Thank you for that. So we are getting closer to announcing a winner. Right now, we have the team in the back room going through results, and I promise there's no faulty voting machines. This doesn't have to go to court at the end. Everything's good. We're gonna pick a winner, and the winner's the winner. So we can chat a little bit more as we're waiting for those results to come in. And and before we do that, I do want to ask everybody, if you're not already, I hope you're enjoying this and in this format. I think this is, I love it. I think this kind of conversation is necessary and needed. So do follow the great debate on LinkedIn. We have another debate coming, another massive debate coming in August. It is, should we buy or build, specific to people analytics? So it will be an interesting one. And again, I know it's tough to go binary on that. And just like it's tough for scale or value, but we want arguments on either side, because again, by arguing either side and debating either side, it brings us to a stronger middle point. Right? Think about anything in life, politics, whatever it might be. Have your perspective, but then we all lean in, and then we can lock arms, and then we can make a decision, and we can move forward and do what's best for our organizations and the community and the world at large. So do follow the great debate. Hopefully you all sign up for the next debate. There's a lot more coming, already future debates being scheduled. And I want to see if we have a winner yet. And Kenzie, are we still getting close, or we have a little bit?
Yes, we're getting very close.
Okay.
Dan, I'm sending it to you shortly.
Perfect.
I think we do have a winner.
Perfect. Ooh. So one thing I'll add about the great debate too, so for everyone listening and the debaters listening, the concept around this is wider than just people analytics. We'd love that we're starting in an area near and dear to all of our hearts around people analytics, and the next one is specific to people analytics too. But we're going everywhere. Like we want to chat about initiatives in HR. We want to chat about initiatives focused around diversity, inclusion, equity, belonging. We want to chat about AI. We want to chat about, you name it, we're going to have a debate about. So please feel free as well in the chat, or just flood the LinkedIn page. If you have ideas, let us know. Hey, let's debate on this, debate on this, debate on this. We'd really, really appreciate that, because there's so many good conversations we can have versus just us out there telling you, here's what it should be like, here's what it should feel like. Let's do this. No, let's debate about it. Let's talk about it. That's how we're going to make change. Okay, it looks like we have a winner, and I am going to give me a moment to pull this all together and gather my wits about myself. And I do not want to make a mistake reading who the winner is. So I am close to announcing the winner. Is everyone excited about this?
How's everyone feeling? Maybe
Feeling good? How
send through.
how does the debaters feel? And no one feels beat up, right? Just to make sure.
I feel like we need a little drum roll sound for next time. Just say.
You are Lydia. You know me too well. I mean, come on. I'm sure there's a lot of musicians on here, but I've been playing drums for, I don't know. Let's see. I'm 54 years old. I've been playing drums for 52 years. So
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that voting's closed, I think we can all say that I think we all support both sides to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I'd really like a drink now.
Yes. Look, if I could hand out virtual drinks or real drinks, soon enough, listen, I might be able to. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure who asked that. Was that Wilson?
Yes.
Yes. There wasn't. I had a different screen open. I would hand you a drink through the screen. Maybe 6 months we'll be able to do that. Technology is moving fast. Okay. 7 minutes left, so I think it's time to talk about the winner. So let me pull this detail up. So when we began, we had, right when the debate started, we had a total of 74 votes, and it did increase considerably as the debate went on as far as number of those watching. So in the beginning, as you all remember, or at least for those of those who were on, 9% stood tall with team scale, and a whopping 91% chose value. So we knew, and you all knew off the bat, scale had some work to do. So scale rose to the occasion, and opening statements were fantastic. Everyone made, from my perspective, just made incredibly helpful points, and had a great point of view and great perspective. And we went through the opening debates. Then we did a little mid vote just to see how are things starting to trend. And guess what happened? Scale went from 9% to 17%. So you guys should be very proud. You started to rise. Value continued to hold strong at 83%, but we started to, things started to get a little bit closer. So your persuasiveness was paying off. So then the arguments intensified, and we raged on, and we started getting much more passionate. Well, the whole thing was passionate, but really when we went into the back and forth rebuttal side, we went through that, did our conclusion, and then we had the final vote. And I feel like if I start, I'm just gonna let you know who won, and then I'm gonna give you the data behind it, because once I start giving the data, we're all data people, so we'll know pretty quickly. I want to talk about the winner first, and then I'll back into it. So as you know, we're normalizing the data based on the shift, right, from first vote to the last vote. But it is now it's time to crown the champions. And at the very end, drum roll. Anyone who wants to join in, please give me the drum roll. Should have brought my snare drum. I can't believe it. All right, and the drum roll is, and the winner is Team Value wins this debate. So congratulations to Team Value. I will just say, look, Team Scale, you started with 9%. That was an almost impossible to come back from, as you all know, but you did an incredible job. And look, at the end of the day, we need both. And all the debaters know that, we all know that. But again, to get that careful balance, it's so good to take a side and stick to it and talk about why it's important. Then again, that's how we truly, drive change in any organization. So I love that we all did that. So 25%. So Scale did end up with 25% of the vote. So you went from 9 to 25%. So awesome. Congratulations to you. Value did win at a 75% vote. So amazing. I want to do some quick Q&A. I know we have about 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left. Please, there's a Q&A tab at the very bottom of your screen. It's going to be easier than chat. And there's so much great information in chat, and we will read through it. I have not had a chance to read through everything. I cannot wait to read through all the chat questions, and we'll get back to some of you if there's some specific questions. But in Q&A, I'm going to look to see some questions that might be coming in, and you can ask them, ask a specific debater, ask a question for just any debater to pick, and randomly we can pick someone. Okay, so I'm going to pick a few here. I'm going to pick an anonymous attendee, one that came in. Does value mean excluding employees and only focusing on executives? I think I know the answer to that, but who would like to take that from Team Value?
I can start, and I'll invite my panelists to join me here. It's Lydia. So no, it absolutely does not. Value does not mean you're excluding the employees, because fundamentally, as most of us here know, in order for any fundamental change to happen in an organization, you need everyone in the organization to take action, for culture to align, for there to be business value, for there to be anything that the business is looking to do from an organizational goal perspective. You need everyone pulling in on the action. To do that, they need the data, they need the why, they need the what's in it for me. I think from a value team perspective, it's really about, where do you start? Where do you start that point of distribution? Where do you start that initial strategy conversation? And that's why we were leaning on the value side a little bit more, but by no means does it mean that we're excluding the employees whatsoever.
Love that. Thank you for that. A couple more questions here. So one from Benny Jimenez. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the last name wrong, but starts, I agree with Pietro. Does he scale by building or going with platforms to automate the background work? Maybe another debate when we think about build versus buy, but super quickly, is scaling about building or using existing platforms to automate?
Look, it depends on the maturity of our organization and where you can drive biggest value. Now that the poll is closed, though, shout out for the Scales team, because maybe value is the old way of thinking. Gen AI is not built for the CIO, for the CEO of the organization. Gen AI is completely switching the way we are viewing at the problem. Those are Scales first solution. First we scale it, and then we adjust it to whoever needs it. So we need to stay vigilant and not look at this debate in the way we know today and the way we know 2 years from now. So Ben, your question, depending what you drive value, is it platform, is automation, depending how much value you can bring. But at the same time, look at Scale, because sooner you don't need a CEO to make a decision. Well, you need it. You need a CEO to make a decision, but it's going to be much more democratized through this Gen AI proposition.
Yeah, so well said. And look, I mean, you're right. I mean, that's the goal of these debates is to understand both perspectives, and both perspectives that are incredibly important, right? There is no right, there is no wrong answer to this. So so the final question, then we'll say our goodbyes and thank everybody. Question from Kiran Ramganish, if I'm pronouncing that right. How do we link organizational performance to determine the level of value derived from various people analytic initiatives? This is kind of a big, this is a big question. Probably don't have a lot of time to answer it. Does anybody want to jump in and give a fast answer? Again, how do we link org performance to determine the level of value that we can derive from various PA initiatives? Anyone want to take?
I can do it in
jump
3
in.
words. Oh, go for it.
Go for it, Lydia. If you've got 3 words, take them.
3 words. Follow the money. Know how you make money. Follow the money. You'll link it.
That's good. Does anyone else want to add on to that?
No, I was literally going to say what Lydia said before around, bottom line, that's what matters. And if that's through, employee engagement, if that's through production metrics or sales numbers, and how you see that people analytics can have some kind of correlation or causation there, that's how you measure it in the best possible way. But numbers speak, that's it.
Yeah, and I know we're ending. Sorry, one final question that just came through, and it's an interesting one. What would be the worst outcome you can expect if the organization can't find balance between value and scale? I had to just, sorry, I know we're a little bit over, but this question feels really important. What happened?
Money bleeds out of the organization.
An insanely expensive science experiment. There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. Well, again, thank you. I know we're about 2 minutes over. I appreciate everyone spending a couple of extra minutes of their day. Thank you to those participating, watching us, the chat. I cannot wait to read through it all. So much great content there. Thank you so much to the debaters. You guys were awesome, succinct, on time, fantastic, well done. And this was so much fun. And again, congratulations. I have to say congratulations to Team Value. You did win this debate, but most importantly, we had a learning conversation and a great discussion. I want to thank Kinsey for being really the person that kind of has been bringing this to life and had this idea. So Kinsey Lee, thank you so much. And all the work you did to help this come to life. And Barry and People Analytics World, thank you so much for sponsoring this and being a part of this. And super excited for our next debate. Do sign up, follow us on The Great Debate, post on LinkedIn, make noise about this. I hope everyone had fun and have an amazing rest of the weekend, or for some of you, the weekend beginning. For some of you, the rest of the Friday going into the weekend. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.